Oh, Barnaby, I'm so happy that we're having this chat, and I will add it to the YouTube because this is great to share with my audience, our conversations that we have.
Yeah, not everything. We can't share everything, obviously, Bella,
Do you know, and I do keep saying, where you've helped me over the years with my mental health, that I should allow your services to my audience so they could be your mentees as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like all good mentors, there is a limiting resource, and only the chosen few get to be my mentees, Bella.
Yeah, that's true.
And that really only occurred after I started mentoring you, and I realised I needed to be more choosy.
Yeah.
So listen. So we've obviously been working together for 10 years. How have and we've kind of built a business around your mental health.
Yeah.
How has the recent COVID pandemic affected your business, and at the same time as obviously with your mental health situation as well?
Do you know what? This is a great conversation to have, because I'll say I've had a triangle of dynamics going on with COVID. And one thing I will say, and I hope this makes sense, there were a lot of things or improvements I needed to do with regards to my mental health and depression before COVID. And since COVID has happened, it's made me focus on that more and make those changes. And what I mean by that is time, because what COVID has allowed me to do is, and everybody I'm sure, that lockdown, when you were at home, you had the opportunity of time that we never had before. And I don't know if you remember, I said to you, my God, I feel like I'm working longer hours. And then I worked it out because I'm not jumping on the tube to go into a meeting, or I'm not going to a coffee shop and then going to a meeting. And that actually could be like an hour or a break. So what COVID's allowed me to do is, the biggest thing is face my fears.
Yeah.
And face my fears about triggers of my depression.
Okay. I mean, I'm fascinated by this, because I think the experience that you're going through is the same whether you've got mental health challenges or whether you haven't. Actually, I think the idea that we've had more time to really review what we're about, what our lives are about, and actually for me, and I don't know if this has been true for you as well, what it's enabled me to do is to shift from being reactive, i.e. getting to the train station on time to meet a train and park and this, and getting to London and get to the meeting on time and order the coffee and be reactive, to become much more proactive.
Yes, you've hit the word on the hammer, or the hammer on the word. Do I always get it wrong? I do like the phrase. But what is the phrase? Is it hit the hammer? No, wait. You've got the hammer in your hand, so you're hitting the nail.
You've hit the nail on the head. There is no hammer in the phrase.
Oh. All right then.
And imagine, if you would, that you miss the nail that you're holding in your fingers, right, as you hit it with the hammer. That is very painful.
Do you know what?
The challenge is to hit the nail on the head.
I always get, you know what? I understand the sayings, but I get them wrong. Like, once I think I was in a meeting or something, and I was talking about an ex-murderer. I think you were there. I said, yeah, you could be an ex-murderer. Yes. And you kept looking at me like you didn't know what I was talking about. I said, ex-murderer? Do you know what an ex-murderer is? And you said, no, an axe. Is it an axe murderer?
There is an axe murderer. I wasn't quite sure, because once you're a murderer, you can never be an ex-murderer, because you will have murdered somebody.
Yeah. So basically, yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about proactivity. So I think there's been a shift.
Yeah.
And and actually, you know, in a world where perhaps mental health is not a challenge, they call that stress.
Yes.
Okay, clearly, if you've also got the additional mental health attributes, then stress turns into mental health issues.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm wondering, which is why I was interested in the question, whether having more time, not being under pressure, being in control of your own destiny much more during the day, to work as hard as you can when you can, but when you can't work, you stop work and don't do it because...
Absolutely. You've taken the words out of my mind. That's where I mean about the nail on the hammer, that now being proactive, I'm sort of laughing at me. I'm in a lot more control, and I realise I'm more proactive. And not only proactive, I'm more pre-planning my stresses or my depression, so it may not occur where I can, because I'll never be able to eradicate my depression.
Sure.
But so it's a bit lesser and lessened. So that's where, and I know COVID has been so difficult and deadly, but it's been a gift for me actually, because I really wanted to do this, what I'm embodying and going through right now. I would have liked to do this, but COVID has allowed it to happen sooner and has forced me to have this thinking, to look at my time, actually examine my depression, look at my triggers and my fears that I might have brushed under the carpet, which is stress, isn't it? Because when you're going through stress or something, you brush it under the carpet.
I think that's right, and therefore, if you're chasing your life, then you kind of push to one side the fact that there's a change, or there's a trigger going on, or there's something, and you go, yeah, I'm going to ignore that.
You ignore it. That's the word, ignore.
And then of course suddenly it just comes and whacks you straight, you know, and it takes you out completely, because it's got to a point where you then can't control it anymore. Therefore, and I get that. And I feel that too. But it manifests itself as stress in my life.
And in my world,
and then I get a bit short, and I'm a bit clipped, and I'm not as, and my family tend to pick that up more than anybody else, of course, because they see me. So it's the same. I think it's the same for all of us. I think it's just a bit more of a challenge if you've got a known condition like you do with the bipolar, then you know, and actually one hopes now why it's a little bit easier is you see the signs maybe a little bit earlier than you would have normally done.
Oh my gosh, you're taking the words out of my mouth. And that's what I mean with the gift of COVID. And I'm in a spiritual place, an uplifting place, that I can see those signs and work with them better. And I just wanted to touch on something that you said, and you always said this, and I never quite understood. And this is why I'm really embraced to do the mental health initiative, is you've always used to say, oh Bella, every business owner goes through stress, but it's either it escalates into the mental health challenges as it's presented with myself. Because what I have noticed, and to be honest, I saw this from day one, as soon as they said lockdown in March, I sat down and I thought, oh my gosh, there are going to be so many people who have never had mental health problems or challenges are going to feel a few pinches and inklings. And
you know what, I you know, at the end of the day, if you're alive, you need mental health. Let's be quite clear about that. So because your brain is the main controlling organ of the body, and therefore it needs looking after. And actually, what's really interesting is it's really only the neuroscientists and the other people who are saying, look, we spend a lot of time eating well, we spend a lot of time getting fit and making our muscles work and all that sort of thing, but we don't do enough to look after our brains. And where that conversation is becoming more pertinent is in dementia and Parkinson's, because now we're living old enough and long enough to die of dementia, which is effectively a degrading of the brain. Now,
yes, which is also classified as a mental health illness.
Indeed. And so, in other words, there's a whole stigma for me around the words mental health, which is it's sort of like it's a disease or a condition, and yet actually we should all be focusing on our mental health.
You're so correct, because I did a video on this, and I will turn it into an article. And I think that's what I'm identifying right now, is I'm going through a crossroad and a new embodiment that I'm proactively looking after my mental fitness.
Yes, or mental well-being, or whatever the phrase is that suits you.
But it's the same fitness that you use to flex your muscles, or
I think so.
And I think that's what I'm doing now, where COVID gave me the gift. I didn't have that time. I thought I did give it time, but I'm actually able to give it a bit more. It's actually like going on holiday, really, isn't it?
Well, I think it's exactly that. And I think, you know, I've spoken about the last 6 months as being like a sabbatical, business sabbatical.
Yes.
Because actually every day I've done something that's better than the day before. My business is in a much better place. I'm delivering really high quality work and all that sort of thing, because you're right, you know, I haven't got the flotsam and jetsam of all this other stress, which is getting to meetings and not being late and relying on public transport and having the money and, you know, and remembering my glasses and, you know, all that stuff. I don't have to do any of that because it's all kind of here around me. So okay, so let me ask you a different question. So in a world where there is no COVID.
Good question.
Okay, what are you going to do differently?
Thank you.
So that actually your life is set in a much better place. Because I agree with you. I think abhorrent though it is, the impact of COVID on people.
Yeah.
If we start to look for positives, what are those things that we can take forward? And so what are you going to take forward?
Right.
Are you going to slow down? Are you going to...
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
I'm so happy you asked that question. And I think it's a good question that all of us need to answer. And I am looking at that question with the answer, because I've looked at it. COVID has been a gift in that way for me to be mentally fit. Then I say to myself, well, okay, Bella, what are you going to do when the vaccine comes?
Yeah.
Right. Regardless if it takes them 6 months, a year, but we will go back to life, back to normal life. So, Bella, how are you still going to maintain this? Because I don't want to lose it. And this might sound like so simple, but this has been the other reward of me working on my mental fitness, is my new schedule and allocating more time for review and seeing that things are still on track. And if that's a way of meditation, or if that's a way of having a quiet corner, and also, this sounds so silly, making use of the alarms on my phone to remind me, hey, it's time to review. Are you still on schedule? Because I've organized my days much better in 3 parts. And to the answer to your question directly, that tool is what I'm taking now. And I want to call it like the new world, because the world I had before is not like the world that I'm living in now. I feel that the mental fitness that I'm embracing is helping me to have a better world. So I want to continue that. And also, I think the changes and improvement is going to allow me to have a better quality of work and more opportunities. And I'm going to make sure I take those tools into that new world, or when the COVID is finished, post-COVID, and continue it, because I don't want to lose it. I think for the so many years I've had depression, maybe it's been 12 years now I've been battling with depression. I know it's never going to go away, but this is going to help me with my management and continue this way of life post-COVID, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. So how are you recording that? How are you making it habitual rather than just whimsical what you've got to?
Yes,
what are you doing? How are you coding that into your life?
I am. What I have been doing is, as much as I like writing, I have been using my YouTube channel to almost record my changes, and maybe some private recordings I've got to keep to myself. But I am almost mapping that out and doing more journaling, but in a style of maybe memoirs of my journey. So definitely, like, this is a good example. Something, a small tool that, had I known about this, I would have done this before. So say, for example, if before we are doing our meetings or another meeting, or I finished a big block of work, the old life before COVID, what I would do is just go straight into the next meeting, not even just have a little bit of break. Now, I go down to the park on my scooter, even just for half an hour.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not the scooter. It's the change of environment. It's the fresh air, and just getting ready for the next meeting.
Yeah, but also you're worried about not falling off or crashing into something, so that actually dominates your thinking. And therefore, you don't think about anything else. Yeah,
no,
I
I'm quite a whiz on my scooter now. I'm actually thinking, I've been looking into it. Is there a sport? Because the scooter has actually helped me with my mental fitness.
Oh, there will be. Don't you worry.
You know what? The other day, I outdid myself, because sometimes I have my mask half on and it does slid.
Yeah.
So somebody came a bit close as I was on my scooter, and I used one hand.
That sounds very worrying.
Mask, and I was still going.
No, that's not good. It's not good.
So yeah, I'm getting a whiz. But yeah, just the fact is, it's not even a scooter. Is I took myself away from the situation, and those little small things makes a change in mental fitness. And things like that is what I am recording.
Okay, so can you? There are two great books about this. There's a thing called the Checklist Manifesto.
Oh wow!
And a thing called Black Box Thinking. One's by Matthew Syed and one's by Atul Gawande. And what they narrate is the fact that systems and processes are really effectively run if there is a checklist attached to it.
Like the review that I was talking about.
Yeah, so and in the books they compare, for example, the airline industry with the NHS, or the health service. And the health service is notorious for making the same mistakes again and again and again. And the reason is because if you're a surgeon and you make a mistake, you hush it up. You don't tell anyone because you think people are going to see you not as a very good surgeon. So you don't admit that you made a mistake and somebody died on the table. So what happens is nobody tells anybody about mistakes they make in the NHS. So the mistakes get repeated time and time and time again, and nothing really improves. In the airline industry, when a plane crashes, you know this from the news, the first thing they look for is the voice recorder and the black box.
Okay.
Because in the black box and the combination of the voice recorder and the black box, they absolutely find out as quickly as possible what went wrong, so that they can tell every other single pilot in the world what went wrong and not to click switch A, E, and G in that order.
That's why the black box is so important.
That's why it's so important, and why flying on airplanes is by far the safest form of transport in the world, by far. Yeah, it is. Although it's profound when a crash happens and we lose lots of lives, it is very, very rare. Yeah, because of this idea that they create checklists. Where every pilot, when they get on a plane, even they've flown thousands and thousands of hours, still goes through the same checklist every time. Because if they go through that checklist, the chance of things going wrong. A surgeon never goes through a checklist. So
you.
I mean, you think about it in a modern day. Why would a patient ever wake up and there's a swab or a piece of equipment inside them from a piece of surgery? How does that happen, right? It's because there's no checklist. There's no checking in the equipment. There's no counting of the swab. It's just a whole different thing. And the 2 books about that. Now, the reason for bringing that up is if you can create yourself a very simple checklist, which is stuck up on your computer or on the wall, which just says no more than 2 meetings in a day or 3 meetings a day.
Yes, no more, only 1 Zoom a week or
one
something.
Zoom a week, or 43 half an hour scooter rides during the week or whatever. And that's your checklist. And what you're doing is all the time you're going, did I do that? Oh my goodness, I've just been invited to the biggest deal meeting immediately after another one. I'm going to turn it down because actually, forget that, it could impact the rest of my life. And that becomes a kind of a mental health checklist. I think that'd be really interesting.
And that's also doing and exercising mental fitness as well.
I think you're right. I don't know enough about it. I mean, the reason why I'm talking to you is because
mental fitness just means the same, looking after your mind and exercise. But you have
being and kind of teaching it to know and what to expect coming next, because there are going to be lots of unexpected things, and you need to be ready for that. You need to kind of lead your life as much as you can on autopilot, which is why we like routine. We like the routine that's forced on us by the sun coming up and the sun going down and the moon coming up and day and night. That's a mother's nature routine being built on us. The moment we start to abuse that, then Mother Nature goes, oh, I don't know, you've stayed up too late, or you've drunk too much, or you've been out too long, or you really should.
Let me ask you this then. I have a different view on this, but now I've got a different view. And this is a question. Do you believe, and say entrepreneurs or smooth business owners, or you could say this in general, it is a better benefit having a schedule and a routine that you're doing every day, or to be just sporadic?
So I'm very clear on this from a business perspective, as you know, right? In business parlance, what we're talking about from a mental health point of view, and systems and processes and checklists, converts itself into visions, goals, mini goals, and clear objectives. And I think when you're running a business, you must have clear end games, goals, things like that. Now, in my world, that's a business plan. If you haven't got a business plan, you shouldn't be in business, because that is the template that you're going to behave how you're going to behave as a business. And then what you do is you create then the mini goals, the objectives, the strategies that help you deliver the goals. And again, you put all those in place, and then you can deviate as much as you like getting to the goals. Nobody really cares how you get to the goals, but you must hit the goals. And it's like if you go on a journey, you need a destination, otherwise you don't know where you're going. It's just a random journey, and you probably need some kind of map to get you to the destination. There's a long route, a short route, there's a scenic route, there's a direct route. There's loads of routes you can take, but you must always be heading towards the destination, otherwise you're just never going to get to where you're going to get to. And I think business is the same. And I think life it's much harder to set a destination for life, because we're not given a death date. It's kind of much more open-ended life. So what you've got to do is you've got to contain the way you want to lead your life into blocks which are sort of manageable and deliver the kind of lifestyle you want. And that might be you want your own house, you want your own business, you want to start a family. They're all specific goals, and then you have to work towards them. You have to work relationships and all that sort of thing. So I think my view is everything kind of works in the same way. It's all about setting the end game, setting a final goal, creating mini goals to get there, and then you can do whatever you like, as far as I'm concerned. And I think entrepreneurs are very good at whizzing around doing different things, trying to get to the goal quicker, faster, more active, in a more technical way, a better way, a more innovative way. I think that's what they're really good at.
Yes, but you've still got
to hit the goals.
Try to hit a goal.
Yeah, and for me, a goal of business is to make money. So whatever you do in business, you've got to crank the handle of your system and process, and then out pops a little bit of money. Otherwise, you've created a kind of a weird job, which is hard work because you take all the responsibility for everything, which is a bit thick. I'd go and work for somebody else rather than do it myself. But every time you crank the handle of your machine, a little bit of profit should drop out, and you go, okay, I'm going to keep that over there on that side because I might do something with that for my life. But the rest I'm going to use to run the business, crank the handle again. And for me, business is very simple like that.
Yeah. I get.
As you know, we've talked about it many, many times over the last 10 years.
I'm glad that you answered that question, because then it confirmed and you're in agreement. We need that structure and guidance. There may be a bit of the fluctuation but the goal end is there. And that's something I've learned better during COVID, because for a long time, when I had therapy sessions or sessions with my psychologist and my own readings, they do always say, somebody struggling with mental health, especially depression, you should structure your day.
Yes.
And I never understood it. Although I could do it in business in a roundabout way, I was actually a bit more structured in business. I didn't understand, how can I do that in my personal? What do they mean? How is that going to help my depression? And actually, with the lockdown, and because I had all that time, I think the first month, March was just crazy because it was just getting used to it. But then as I got used to it, and I actually thought, you know what, let me try this structured. And it's worked. And I've actually done the structured for my depression.
Yes.
Being structured. And you know what? Now I understand what they're talking about.
Well, that's great. And I think it's, as with everything, Bella, you've got to listen to what people say, try it out, try and find your version of it.
Yeah.
There isn't a template that we can just layer over.
I wish there was. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, if there was, then there wouldn't be there'd be no problems in the world. We just layer templates over.
Yeah, I wish they were, and it's difficult because the element and symptoms of depression, you lose your confidence, you don't enjoy things. So the idea of a structure, or you can't see the benefits and end results of it. So that is definitely something I will be bringing into the new life. And I have documented along the way how I achieve that, because I now have a clear 3 parts of my day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish, and I know along the way you did talk to me about this, and maybe I didn't get it, but I got it a bit with with our work. But yeah, sometimes I think, oh my God, I wish I did this 12 years ago, but everything happens at the right time. So yeah, this 3 parts that I have to my day, sometimes I call it like the power of 3. It's really working for me, and this is
and so what I would do is commend you to turn that into a very simple checklist. Might be 6 points or 5 points.
Okay.
So you don't have to reread all the stuff, because that's all sitting up there. Just a checklist and say, okay. So checklist number 1 is, what do my 3 parts of the day look like today?
Yes.
Where is the 15 minutes that I spend thinking, there's part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, actually I haven't got a part 2. Right, okay. So what am I going to do about part 2, because I haven't got one of that built in today? Or actually tomorrow I've got 2 part 3s, 2 part 1s, and no part 2s. Right, okay. So can I convert a part 3 into a part 2? Can I, and you just, so it gives you that kind of moment, and then you go, okay, to deliver part 1, it's got to have these criteria. It's got to be it's going to be when I'm creative. So what do I need?
Yes.
What are the resources? Have I got the resources in place to be creative, or am I going to get frustrated that I can't do what I want to do because I don't have, whatever. you know.
Absolutely. And something else that came of that, which was a bonus, is when I look at the 3 parts of the day, because you talked about creative stuff.
Yeah.
And part of my work requires a bit of creative stuff, like I'm doing a lot of video editing, graphics, and LinkedIn and social media. What I looked at as a bonus of those 3 parts of the day, what part of the day should be used to do a certain part, like creative stuff.
Yeah.
I would do that more in the morning, you know, than the afternoon part or the second part. So that bit really helped, looking at when am I most active. So if in part 3 of the day, okay, maybe I shouldn't have meetings at that time, or do I do that in the middle of the day? So that has helped immensely. And I'll definitely say that's been the gift of COVID, where I might have been able to excel in the business world of doing that, but definitely for my depression, COVID has really helped me.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Well, let's hope that carries on.
Yeah, and I want to put out this podcast to hear how other people and what gifts of COVID, what in their life has been a turnaround or a good outcome from this, because we will be looking back on these days in years to come, you know.
Yeah, and as culturally, we're very good at looking at all the bad stuff.
Yes.
And we're not so brilliant at going, actually, but there was some other good stuff.
Absolutely. I was thinking of, you know, Barnaby, I was thinking about that because I'm not really a movies person, but actually part of my days now is some part of the movies that help me relax. Oh God, I've never watched so many movies now since this lockdown, but that's another story. I could tell you about directing, producing, woo, gosh, yeah. Anyway, so what I was thinking about is a lot of films that I've been watching, because I like documentaries, have been based on a book or based on a true story. So it's going to be so exciting, and I'm looking forward to this, when maybe a year or 18 months, when they create films that were based around this time.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited to see how they depict that. That's going to be really exciting.
Why don't you write one?
Ooh, listen, I got enough things. It's a good idea. I will park that one. I've got enough things going on. I'm doing my mental health initiative. But you're right. Who knows? Listen. Who knows? My part 3 might turn into a movie. Huh?
You never know.
You're right. But you know what? Talking of films, I watched in March, you might know this film. Oh, goodness. I can't remember the actors and action because I'm not good at it. But there's a film called, I'll have to get it, called Contagious.
Oh, yeah. Contagion, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm watching this film and I got freaked out. I was like, hold on. Is this a real thing on the truth? Because they were talking about a pandemic, like what happened, and everything happened. Everything happened.
It starts in the lab as well, I think.
Yeah, and it started with bats and started from China, and you had to wear a mask, and they fought for the vaccine. And then when I looked back, this is when I was getting into the films now, and I started to look at the year and who's in it. This film is actually produced and hit the cinemas, I think, the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's been around a while, I know that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I saw it a long time ago. So, yeah, no, you're right. The often the creative side is a precursor for what becomes reality.
Yeah. I thought, my God, they're almost putting in the universe for this to happen, because it more or less mapped out exactly what happened. That director and whoever thought about that film was excellent. Yeah. So Barnaby, thank you coming on, because you know what, on my YouTube channel and on the podcast, I'm always talking about my mentor, and so it's good for you to come on so they can hear who you are, how you turned my business around, doubled my income, right? I put your contact details in the bio, but it's so great for you to come on the show and they can hear and get a bit familiar and meet you and learn, you know, who is this mentor I keep talking about.
I'm not sure I want to be revealed in that way, but nevertheless, no, listen, it's, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. It's never been a problem. I've always enjoyed it. And because I think, you know, a mentor is always looking to create an impact on the mentee, but the mentee also has to want to have an impact happen to them. It's not, you know, this is not a lip service thing, you know. It's you got to do this thing, and I think, you know, all due respect to you, you've given it a go at every turn throughout the last decade, and in spite of many things being stacked against you. That's to be admired. It has to be said. So
thank you.
Anything I can do to give others inspiration to do the same thing, then they should, because I know.
Well, I will definitely invite you back on the show again. So thank you.
Cool.
All right, let me end that there. Oh, that's good. In the chat box, are you sharing? I'm sharing. Can you put the title? Do I have to make you share again?
No, I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, put the books, the block, the oh god, my fraud part of my day. Yeah,
the checklist manifesto. The checklist manifesto. Oops. Checklist manifesto by, I think he's a doctor, Atul